Hello and welcome to my first podcast. My name is Max Röck, and this podcast is about my journey from mediocrity to mastery. You are listening to episode 5, Do It Daily or It Stays a Dream. The story continues here. If you haven't heard the full story yet, feel free to pause now and go back to episode 1. My part-time study came to an end. The last months before the exams had been a lot of preparation. I brought all the folders together, all the books we received from the college, and realized how much material there actually was to get through. There was so much material I didn't know because it just piled up in a shelf in the room in my parents' house. So at that time I wished I had studied much harder during the 2 years of the course. But I haven't, so I had to face the reality and get to work. Do you know those moments where we have not much time left to complete a task, a specific study, or get something done? We know it had to be done at a certain time for ages. We just put it off every day and every day after and keep telling ourselves, well, we do it tomorrow, not today. Today is a bad day because, I don't know, the wind is blowing outside, the sun shines. So it's really, we always find the excuse. And there I had all those excuses during those 2 years, and I never actually used the books or read through the books, or I think 6 months into the course we already received the past exam papers, but I never actually opened them up or thought about them until just a couple of months before the exams. And then it was overwhelming to go through all those documents, all those books. One of the exams I had to go through was the accounting exams. So I got started and got through the materials, and quickly I realized I was a blessing because I worked in the accounting department most of my apprenticeship, and also thereafter. Like, accounting was something I have done on a daily basis. So most of the topics were known to me. And I didn't know to have to go through a lot of new areas in accounting. So it saved me a huge chunk of time, which I could then use in other areas much more beneficial to me. So when I got my hands onto the accounting books, there were still a few topics I didn't know, but it didn't matter because when I went through them, things became easy quite quickly because I could link them to other areas, and it was just kind of natural for me to go through all those numbers. But when I got my hands onto the second topic, or the second exam topic, which was economies, it changed. Many areas in economies weren't that clear to me than the accounting topics were. So I still had that one amazing benefit I remember, which they keep telling us in class. We were allowed to bring a formula collection we received from the college into the exams. So I quickly knew what I had to do. I had to use that benefit we have and pulled up the exams paper we received and ran through all the questions created to the formulas. So honestly, when I read through the first questions, I didn't really have a clue what they meant. I opened up the formula collection and I tried to find the right formula to apply to the question, but I had no luck. So I went back to my room, pulled up the books and the notes from the lectures, and by going through, I realized the obvious. There are so many words to say the same thing. So they literally just phrased the question another way. I hadn't heard it before, and I couldn't find the right formula straight away. But when I have found the right formula to use for the first question I answered, I made it actually quite simple to use that formula. because numbers had always been a thing to me, and I could apply those formulas using the numbers and even make sense out of the numbers coming out at the end. But I found when I went through the formula collection, I found a few formulas I haven't neither used nor ever seen before. So I had to ensure I will not have that happening in the exam. So what I had to focus on after I've realized that, I ran through the entire formula collection, and it was like I don't know, maybe 1 inch thick book I went through. And when I went through a formula I haven't used before, I pulled up the exam papers, and for some questions I had to go through half of the exam papers I had available to actually find any question to use for that particular formula. So I made sure I also used that particular formula, go through, feel familiar, so when I know the next time I actually know what those numbers coming out at the other side of the formula of the equation mean, and how actually to phrase a proper answer using that information. Been through the entire formula book and find a few questions for each and any formula, I thought the hardest part was over. So I was really relieved already at that point in time. But actually not a bit was over. I had the business law left to get through. But the good part was we were also allowed to bring the book of commercial law. So we are also allowed to bring a book into the exam, which was the commercial law book, and use that during the exams. But we were also allowed to put post-its into it and cross-reference to other paragraphs, and highlight specific areas in like those, I don't know, half-page, full-page paragraphs. So I pulled out those exam papers again and put post-its on each and every paragraph I used to answer questions in the past exam papers we received. But I also cross-reference paragraphs. So if there was a paragraph, paragraph 10, and to actually fully answer the question, I also need a paragraph, 812. I put like an arrow on paragraph 1 and reference it to paragraph 820. And the commercial law book was a couple of 100 pages. But after I had put on all those post-its, like it felt to me like I added like the same amount of paper onto the book just on the side, which I think was a waste of paper. So yeah, well, I had to do it because it helped me a lot during the exams. The final exam week approached very quickly, and the first day I had been here, and honestly I was nervous as fuck and scared shitless to fail the exams. But I knew I had prepared much more than I had ever prepared for any exam in my entire life until that point. And I knew I could resit the exams if needed. This gave me a lot of confidence, but also the security that I knew there was less risk. It wasn't a once exam where I could only try once, and if I fail, I can't redo it and the whole 2 years were gone. So that gave me a lot of confidence, and I knew it gave me also the security that there was less risk involved in taking the exam. So I brought everything with me I needed at the exam, and I also brought at least one backup. So I brought a calculator. I brought 2 calculators actually, not only one. So I brought one calculator and I brought my backup calculator. I brought 2 pencils, many pens, I probably have 10 or 12, and a few rulers. So basically everything I needed for the exams, plus a backup for it. And for the pen I actually brought much more than one backup. So we got our assigned tables, and we had to put our invitation letter on the table, and our passports on top of it. So the people went through, checked if we had the right people matching the invites and matching our face matches our passports and so forth before we could start the exams. We already had a huge envelope on top of our tables with the exam papers in it, which I think was kind of scary at the time. There was a lot of additional materials in it, which we didn't actually need, so it wasn't that huge of an exam at the end. But finally, we could start in a couple of hours. We got through everything and finished the exam, but I knew I had to write clearly and therefore very slow. My handwriting at the time was so bad that I was barely able myself to read it afterwards. So, funny story, if I took notes by hand in a class, in a lecture, I usually wrote them down in OneNote afterwards, straight after, or maybe a day after I put the notes down, because it was still fresh in my head and I could kind of guess or remember what I wrote there. If it was like weeks or even months after I took those notes, no way I wasn't ever able to grasp what I tried to say there or write there. So when that day was over, first exam was done, 2 more to go. The next 2 days weren't that hard anymore. I was less nervous to go through those exams, and I also went through them. And walking out the last exam in that week, it was such a relief. It was such a burden coming off my shoulders, which felt so amazing. But the true learning from that story is that we do not have to do the things we want to accomplish for a very long time at once. So we can't study for like a full week, 24/7. I won't benefit as much. But if we put the effort in every single day, constantly, it will not only save us so much time, because we're more efficient in studying or learning or doing anything we really enjoy doing, but at the end, it will also make us so much better in that area we choose to excel. So as an example, I told you last week that I want to have that 6-pack until my birthday, which is, to be exact, the 14th of June this year. How will I get there? Well, actually, honestly asked me that question a lot of time before as well. But what I have to do is I have to constantly improve and be willed to get there. So my girlfriend is also on board, started on the 27th of December to work out every morning, the first thing. We follow an exercise from a YouTube channel, from a YouTube video every morning. Some mornings it's more cardio based, it's harder, I sweat more, but other days it's stretching. So usually depends on the workout I have done the evening before. So if I played soccer for 2 hours the night before and I got home at like 11 in the night, we usually stretch in the morning. So we start with a small warm up to get the full body moving and start to sweat a little bit, but then afterwards we do like a 10-minute stretching, which feels so great. Your body feels much better, and it's amazing. I could highly recommend doing that. So if there are any goals you want to achieve, like I do with having my 6-pack, don't focus on the goal just now. Focus on the little task, like working out for 20 minutes every day, and your goal will get closer every day. And you will see how you will be benefited by the compound effect. You want to work out much more than only 20 minutes in the morning, because of you get the feeling and how great it feels after the workout, how much more energy you have for the day. So most of the days I also work out in the evening, because now I feel much better, and I fell to sleep much easier, and I get up better, easier. I feel more energized in the morning. So to achieve what you really want, you have to do the necessary steps, the necessary tasks, put the necessary commitment in every day and not only once. I'm Max Röck. Thank you for listening. Until next time.